What is your full name?
David Earl Ashton.
How are you related to me?
I am your grandfather.
Where did you grow up?
I was raised in Peoria, Illinois.
What was your childhood like?
What was it like?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, I had a happy childhood. I had 3 brothers, no sisters. I was raised in an area and at a time when there was not nearly the concern that there is today about letting your children play in a neighborhood. In fact, my mom and dad used to send us boys out to play and with instructions to come back for the next meal. Either come back at noon or be back by dinner time or be back before dark.
Oh, right. What was my dad like growing up?
What was your dad like growing up?
Mm-hmm. The next questions are, was he well behaved, and what was the worst thing he ever did? Mm-hmm.
Your dad was a lot of fun. He's showing off.
Picker.
Yeah, he's gone.
Oh.
Anyway, he was a lot of fun. He brought a lot of joy into our family.
Mm-hmm.
He made us laugh. He was a challenge from the standpoint of normal discipline measures taken on him, like swatting his rear end. Didn't seem to bother him. Putting him in timeout. If you put him in timeout and put him in a corner, facing into a corner, he'd sing to the walls. He turned everything into fun.
What was the worst thing he ever did?
I can't think of anything that I would even classify as worse.
Something that...
As a child,
Yeah. You could just say something he did bad. Like getting in trouble or something. I got in trouble for.
well, he was arrested when he was about 3.
How?
We had all of the kids in a shoe store. We were buying shoes and weren't paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And he wandered off and wandered out the door and down the street, and a policeman brought him back into the store, found him and brought him back into the store and was wondering if his parents were in there. And that's when we discovered he was missing. So we've always said he was arrested when he was about 3 years old. He ran away.
Yeah. What were your parents like?
My parents were loving, kind, they set a very good example for me as my brothers in terms of activity in the church. I just, as far as my dad goes, I just remember that he was, as far back as I can remember, he joined the church just before I was 8 years old. And he was branch president when I was baptized. Mm-hmm. That's within a year from the time he was. So we grew up in an area where it was a very small branch. There's only maybe 25 or 30 of us all together. And Mom was the same way. Mom was always busy and active in church activities. Set a real good example for us.
What in your past would be important for me to know in the future?
What in my past Don't be afraid to do it your way. Be yourself. Be yourself. You've been taught well. You know what's right. You've had good examples all around you and your family, both sides of the family. Good examples. And just have the courage and don't be afraid to be yourself and stand up for what you believe. You'll always be happy. Don't go along with the group just so you can be identified with the group and feel like you have to go along to be accepted. Being accepted is not all there is. That's not the most important thing. But just be a good example. Be friendly, be happy, but be absolutely doggedly firm in maintaining your values.
That's good. What large changes took place in the world during your childhood?
During my childhood?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. First atomic bomb was dropped when I was only 3 or 4 years old, but I can still remember because it ended the war.
What
The
war?
Second World War
The Second World War.
in 1945, 1946. I think it was 1945. It ended the war. What other things happened in my childhood?
Sure.
Significant things.
Wait, 1945 do what?
1945 was the end of the Second World War.
Oh.
Okay. Well, let's go on. Maybe I can think of something.
Okay. What was school like in your generation?
There was a lot of respect for the teachers. There was no bad mouth, no back mouth, no back talk. Absolute respect.
Were there like different punishments and stuff?
It's sent to the principal's office.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they had anything like suspension or not. I was never involved in anything like that. I got sent to the principal's office 2 or 3 times when I was in 3rd grade.
What'd you do?
3rd and 2nd grade. Oh, who knows? I upset the teacher for some reason.
Like,
Just probably messing off in class and not paying attention, being disruptive.
yeah.
You know.
What education stress? Oh, was education stressed in your family?
Was education stressed?
And how?
Not as much as it is today. There was an assumption that you tried to do well, but I never felt any pressure growing up. Never felt any pressure to get good grades. My parents accepted what I did, what I got. They tried to help me, but I didn't feel any pressure. And going to college, I never even thought about going to college until my older brother signed up to go to BYU. And then I thought, college? Is that what I have to look forward to? Never occurred to me.
So you went to BYU Provo, or?
But he was 4 years ahead of me. He graduated from high school when I graduated from 8th grade. We didn't cross over in high school years. I was in high school all by myself. far as family goes.
What would you like students today to learn about in school that they are not learning?
I can't say for sure what they're not learning.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that that there's not a concentration on teaching the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
teaching how the country came about,
Mm-hmm.
what the thinking of the founding fathers was in drafting our present-day Constitution, and how this thinking came to be, how the founding fathers of our country came to think the way they did, what influenced them in getting them to the point where they drafted the Constitution. Because I don't think members of Congress today know as much as they ought to know in that regard about the Constitution. They're always trying to change things. They're always trying to do things, make new rules, new regulations, new laws to cover something that we don't need more laws. We need less laws. We need less regulation. Let us govern ourselves. Joseph Smith said, teach people correct principles and let them govern themselves. That's not what's happening today. They go back, I think what's happening in Washington is our representatives, our senators, and our congressmen go back there and they just gin out more rules and regulations without figuring out how to enforce the ones that we have. That ought to be getting rid of as many regulations.
What is the most important lesson that you have learned in life?
Never give up on people. Even though they give you every reason to give up on them. Never give up. And that's not easy to do. That's not easy to take that approach. That's hard.
Forgive them?
Not only forgive, but try and figure out ways to help, be their friend, and help them.
What has technology changed during your lifetime?
What has technology changed? Well, it's changed just about everything, the way we do everything.
Yeah.
The way we communicate, the way we entertain ourselves. It certainly provided a lot of luxuries. What were considered luxuries when I was your age. Now they are considered necessities.
What are?
Like air conditioning. We didn't have air conditioning when I was growing up. We didn't have air conditioning in our house until, I don't know, I was 13, 14 years old. And we lived in an area where it got up to 80, 95 and 100 degrees. The humidity was about 85 and 90 during the day, and it was sweltering in the house. Think about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can remember my mother washing clothes in a Ringer washing machine. You don't even know what that is.
Like one of those like washboards or no?
Well, it was just a round tub,
Mhm.
and it had an agitator
Mhm.
that was electric
Mhm.
that would agitate the clothes. But then you shut that off, and then there was a set of rollers,
Mhm.
and you would hand run these two rollers, look like two rolling pins
Mhm.
running against each other, and you'd run your clothes through the wringer to wring out the water,
Mhm.
and then you'd take the clothes out and hang them up on the line.
So you had to use your hand to like crank it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do for fun when you were younger?
I had a go-kart I built.
You built a go-kart?
Mm-hmm. I found an old wooden ironing board that my mother was not using anymore. And I used that as the base, and I nailed a couple of 2x4s on it, and I found some axles and some wheels,
Mhm.
and I built a system where I found some lead pipe or steel pipe that my dad had.
Mhm.
And I made a steering mechanism where I could actually steer the wheels with my and I used the design that I had in my Cub Scout handbook.
Mhm. Oh.
I got it out of my Cub Scout handbook. That was where I got the idea.
Mhm. Well, how old were you when you did this? Do you remember?
9, 10.
9 or 10?
Mm-hmm.
And you made a go-kart when you were like 9?
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
Yeah. I was fairly handy.
Yeah.
Dad taught us how to use tools and let us use them.
Um. Okay. When you were young, what did you think your life would be like when you were older?
When I was young. What is young to you?
Like when you were my age or Claire's age, or
Okay.
like what did you think like your life?
When I was your
like,
age,
yeah.
I had already decided that I wanted to be a pilot.
A pilot.
I had had a ride in a small airplane.
Mhm.
It was only a 2-seater airplane.
Mhm.
Seat in front, seat in the back.
Mhm.
Very small airplane, but I had a ride. And from that point on, I've always thought I wanted to fly airplanes.
And you did.
And I ended up flying airplanes.
Well, what did you do for a living? Like.
What was my profession?
Mhm.
Well, I had a combined profession. I was in law enforcement,
Mhm.
as
The
federal
DEA?
law enforcement as a special agent for the Drug Enforcement Administration,
The DEA.
DEA,
Mhm.
and I also had the assignment of being a special agent / pilot. I flew airplanes for them as well as making cases and doing drug investigations.
So like, give me an example of like what you would do. Like.
Well, I'll give you a couple examples. Aviation resources, airplanes,
Mhm.
were used to support the enforcement effort by providing overhead surveillance.
Mhm.
In other words, I could fly around overhead, I'd be on the radio and I could be talking to agents who were surveilling or following somebody on the ground, and I could talk to them, and I could see where the target was going
Mhm.
from up above and allow the surveillance agents to pull back a little bit and not get burned. You know what it means to get
Mhm.
burned?
Yeah.
To be discovered that by the guy you're following anyway, that's one way we did it. And then another thing was to use airplanes actually in an undercover capacity.
Mhm.
Participating with bad guys
Like.
in smuggling,
Mhm.
bringing drugs into the country.
Mhm.
We didn't actually bring drugs into the country. We didn't turn anything loose, but we participated with them.
You like pretend like when
I pretended like a smuggler, like I was a pilot and making money. I had an airplane and I made money smuggling loads into the country.
Mhm.
And I did a lot of those. I did a lot of those. And we would negotiate.
Mhm.
It takes a long time to set up a deal, and a lot of times we would meet violators and go flying.
Mhm.
And if I were working here in Dallas, I might meet a violator, tell him to meet me at an airport somewhere here in the area, maybe Alliance Airport,
Mhm.
and tell him to block out 4 or 5 hours because we're going to go over to Las Vegas and have dinner,
Mhm.
and we're talk about the deal we're going to do, smuggling dope, and then bring him back. That way, we do all of our talking in the airplane up above,
Mhm.
where there's no surveillance.
Mhm.
What the violator didn't know was the airplane was wired for sound and video.
Mhm.
So, we got everything.
Yeah.
And there were just we used the airplanes to follow violators. In other airplanes, we did a lot of work. I did a lot of work down over the Caribbean,
Mhm.
following boats. I worked down in South America,
Mhm.
looking for coca plantations, opium plantations, marijuana plantations, laboratories, just lots of stuff.
What? How many siblings did you say you had again?
I had 3 brothers. I
No
have 3
sisters?
brothers, no sisters.
Okay. And then, what was it like growing up with them, with your siblings?
My oldest brother was 4 years older than me. I am 3.5 years older than my next brother.
Are you the second oldest, or?
And I'm 12 years older than my youngest brother. So we were kind of spread out.
Mhm.
It was like having a new family every time there was a new sibling in our family. It was difficult to have much in common
Mhm.
because we were so far apart in our interests.
Yeah. What was the best childhood memory growing up?
Probably just being able to live in an environment where we weren't so paranoid, and being able to play in the neighborhood 4 or 5 blocks around,
It wasn't
and
as
just go
bad.
and do anything we wanted.
Yeah.
There was little to no paranoia like there is today.
Did you have a nickname growing up and stuff? Like something your parents called you or something? Your friends called you?
Some friends called me Ash.
Ash?
Yeah. And that's about all. Yeah.
Who was your spouse and what was she like?
Well, from somebody your age standpoint, you know what she's like.
Yeah, well,
You know what she's like.
I'm gonna hear it from you.
Well, when I met her, I wasn't looking for anybody special at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on my commercial license, flying license in college, and I still had another year of school to go. I was in a night school class. We were in a night school class, and that's where we met. And I had to take this class for, it was a marriage class for sociology.
But it was a marriage class and you met her in a marriage
Achieving Success in Marriage was the class.
Mm-hmm.
Schmaltz.
Yeah.
Anyway, we all introduced ourselves. I told her in the class, at the beginning of the class, and I said something about I was a pilot and I'm working on a commercial license. And I passed it on to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
No big deal, and she talked to me afterward. And one thing led to the next. And about 3 months later, we were engaged, and
It was 3
That's
months.
quick.
You only knew each other for 3 months and you got married?
So we met in June, I think, and we dated all summer. And then she graduated that June. She graduated in August, much like your mom did. I think your mom graduated in August also.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then we courted till May, when I graduated. We decided we didn't want to get married when I was still in school. And we got married the day after
How old were you?
I graduated. I was 25 and she was 26.
How would you like to be remembered?
Well, that's easy. Somebody that was a nice guy, nice to be around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody that was not feared. I like to be feared. Sometimes people mistake, are afraid of people because they're they come across a little gruff.
Mm-hmm.
When it's nothing more than just, see, I was raised in a entirely different environment than you guys.
Yeah.
You have to remember that.
Mm-hmm.
What is tolerated today, in many ways, was unthinkable in my day when I was your age. Unthinkable. There was no back talk. Have you ever heard of the saying, children are to be seen and not heard?
Yes,
Ever
I
heard that?
have.
Yeah. Now that's the way it was. When my parents had guests over, friends over, we were to make an appearance, say hello,
And then goodbye.
and then go away.
Yeah.
But then that's another nice thing about my day, because when we went away, we got out of the house and went and played with our friends.
Oh,
And
you just
like
leave.
where you live, there was a big canyon or gully behind our house.
Oh, where I
and
used to live?
where you live now. You don't have one now, but you have the forest right next
Oh,
to
yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
So we had something like that, and
You'd go play there?
we used to go out and play.
It's fun. Well, that was it.
Well, I'll give you something to
Yeah.
write up.